even today. Today is Tuesday while we're recording per the usual. So Marcus, take us away. What is happening with graphics card?
Oh, easily one of the biggest advancements that's come out in, I would say, the last 5 to 10 years in graphics cards anyway, as far as like graphical performance jumps are concerned here. So Nvidia just today, specifically September 1st, launched their or announced the release of their RTX 3000 series. That includes the RTX 3080, the RTX 3090, and the RTX 3070. They fall in line with the same numbers that you've heard before of the RTX 3070 and the RTX 3080, and they are priced exactly the same as their predecessors, the 2070 and the 2080. The exception here being the RTX 3090. So what they did away with was the TI line, which the predecessor to the 3090 is essentially the 2080 Ti, which this does remove some ambiguity from this. Of course, most people by this point know what the TI line is.
Super nice, though, for people who are getting into building PCs, much like our own B-Scotch and Dots.
Right. Higher number equals better performance.
Correct.
Higher number also equals a much bigger expense as far as this is concerned.
Also correct.
Yeah. So the RTX 3070 is going to get released at 500, which is about it's generally the current tier budget card that they release anyway. The current tier like high end budget card that they release. The RTX 3080 is slated at $699. And I will have to double check this because it's not listed here for some reason. But if I remember right, the RTX 3090 is supposed to drop at $1299.
$1499.
$1499. There you go.
Yeah.
But the performance jump here on these cards
ridiculous.
Is yeah. Across the board, we're talking about an 80 to 100% increase in performance during games, depending on the game and the scene and everything that you're in. So the biggest jumps here, of course, are in the fact that Nvidia finally doubled down on the idea that, yep, RTX and tensor cores are the way to go for graphical performance, because AI, as far as processing for graphical performance and ray tracing for optimal lighting solutions, give the most realistic feel. And the AI gives the most realistic processing to reduce load on the graphics processing units themselves to have to use clunky code to make that work. Instead, the AI can just automatically optimize the scene based on however you're looking at it with whatever hardware you're using.
Yeah.
So ridiculous improvements here. So the RTX 3080 being the baseline that they're using for this this jump here and in comparison to the RTX 2080. So the RTX 2080 had started with 11 shader teraflops. The 3080 is now going to have 30 shader teraflops. It is also going to be running 10 gigabytes of GDDR6X. So the 10 gigabytes of VRAM isn't anything tremendously new, and GDDR6 has been around for a while as far as graphics cards are concerned. GDDR6, though, implements brand new bus interfaces or brand new memory interfaces for the processors themselves to increase the bandwidth tremendously. One thing, of course, is that it's a higher bit bandwidth, as far as memory read and write performance. The biggest improvement, though, is the way that they're actually handling byte performance using voltage modulation. So normally on a motherboard, on a processor, and the way you transmit data over wire is it's a high and low voltage adjustment. It's usually like a quarter, 250 millivolts all the way up to 1,000 millivolts, or a single volt, depending on what it is. What they're doing now to improve the throughput here is they're using 4 sequences or 4 different levels of voltage to transmit data over a wire, which can represent 2 bits at the same time over a single wire. So you have 250 millivolts, which would be 0 0. You have 500 millivolts, which would be 0 1. You have 750, which would be this that or 1 0, and then you have a full volt, which would be 1 1. And the idea is you can get a better representation of data to almost quite literally double the throughput over top of tiny little wires that transmit between the memory and the processor, or the processor and other parts of the board.
Yeah.
Just that, like, by doing something relatively minimal, and don't get me wrong, it's a big improvement because this tiny little hardware has to be able to select between 4 different types of voltage readings instead of 2. But realistically, that's such a simple improvement to be able to increase the bandwidth throughput on pretty much anything, on a pretty large scale.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the fact that they come up, it's one of those things that you're told a lot, right? The KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. But from a technology standpoint, you always want to try every avenue. You want to try something new and do that. But ultimately, it's just coming back down to keeping it simple. What do you do? Let's use these tiny wires that can pass data a little bit faster, a little bit better. We'll just use more of these, and there you go, done.
Yep. And even then, instead of needing more of them, you just improve upon the ones that you already have. Like,
there you go.
You've got better ability to read voltages across those wires. Why not improve upon that then? So a GDDR6X definitely seems to be the way to go. The RTX 3080 and 3090 are going to be the only two that carry GDDR6, a 6X specifically. The 3070 will not. That is going to be that's going to have just standard GDDR6. So the 3080 is fully expected to be able to handle. Where was it? It was listing at 4K
60.
Yeah, 60 pretty easily anyway on HDR scenarios specifically. The 3090 on the other hand is supposed to be able to handle 8K HDR at 60 frames a second.
60 frames. When I saw that earlier, my jaw actually dropped. I was like, holy shit.
There are some unreal numbers coming out of this stuff.
Yeah.
And a graph that I wanted to pull up specifically that I haven't been able to find on any website specifically shows the price per performance. And I'm showing you guys here, and I'll have to bring this up anyway to show everyone later. But it's really comparing the prices of each released graphics card for them the last 3 generations anyway up to the current. As well as where the performance stacks based on some arbitrary baseline that they're giving. But we're seeing about double the performance roughly.
Yeah.
On most of these graphics cards at the same price. The 3080 is priced exactly the same as the 1080 Ti and the 2080 Super did, with nearly double the performance.
Yeah.
And the 3070 is sitting about the same line with just under double the performance, I think, in that respect. Anyway.
I love how they put the 2080 Ti all the way over here just to remind you how much money you spent on that.
Well, so I didn't see it because I thought they had plotted it on this graph whenever I watched it through the first time, but they didn't. Was the 3090 was supposed to be plunked somewhere up here above this, but it technically falls off the chart at 1499. So
over here.
Yeah, like technically the 3090 is essentially the equivalent to your TIs, but realistically your Titans too. Like the reference that they've already given out is that the 3090 exceeds what the Titan graphics cards. And for those who don't know, from the Nvidia world, the Titan graphics cards are like your over the top, holy shit, I'm trying to spend $4,000 on a desktop computer, to do unrealistic things with, like computing and game performance that I really don't need anywhere else. Or I'm trying to run unrealistic VR, simulations anyway with a headset that just really push the boundaries of what's capable currently. And the Titan graphics cards are really built to do that. Now, the 3090 kind of falls in line with that, but we already know that the 3090 now exceeds what the current gen Titan X can do. So I'm intrigued to see if they come out with another Titan series.
Yeah.
If they come out with a Titan Y or Titan Z or something, next level that would push this even further.
We all know you got the money for it, don't you, Marcus?
Oh, you better believe it. He's buying all 3 of these graphics cards just to put them all on top of each other.
Totally, 100%.
Make a nice big fat $6,000 sandwich.
No,
I don't think it's 6,000. Oh, we might have to work on your math.
Yep.
He said they were like $2,000 a piece, didn't he?
The Titans are, yeah.
The Titans are, yeah. But no, so it's I'm really, really intrigued to see what all comes of this. So here's kind of the big issue, I guess, that they ran into at the last generation. So the 20 series was the first release. They came out with the RTX line. And because they had some backlash as far as the 2000 series or the 20 series was concerned, because regular graphics performance on non-RTX enabled games was actually lower than, like some of the 10 series counterparts even that came out. So in response to that, they came out with the next generation of the 10 series called the 16s. Now both of you guys have 16 level chips, in your laptops, the idea is that it's a more traditional graphics card in an upgraded fashion from what the 10 series was to compete and exceed what the 20 series could do in non-RTX enabled scenarios. But now they're doubling down on the RTX enabled, TensorFlow enabled, graphics computational world, basically saying jump on the ship or don't at this point. We'll see if they get backlash for it at this point, but realistically, I don't think they will. There are enough games at this point that have RTX enabled on them. Call of Duty, who had avoided the RTX train for the last 2 years, Treyarch is now coming out with Cold War, which they're going to announce on September 9th,
which is hilarious.
Is supposed to be RTX enabled.
I also want to point out that during this 45-minute presentation, which by the way was great because it was like a very, very nerdy, like almost like a Gamescom or other conference where they're just like, hey, we're going to talk about all RTX. They even announced RTX 10. They announced a suite of tools for streamers to use, all kinds of other things on top of the graphics cards. But in this event, they also announced that Fortnite is going to have RTX integration as well. Yep. So
you can't have a game release event without mentioning Fortnite partnership.
Of course. But the point is that you're right. Everyone's hopping on this train, and I don't think they're getting enough any flack, really. Like, if you don't want to hop on it, you buy something like what John and I have, which are these gaming laptops with the 16 series. And if you are trying to upgrade and move on forward, then you get these newer. That's the whole reason why they made the pricing the way it is. It's arguably more affordable for more power than you've ever gotten. Right? Like the $500 price point is still a good price point. You'll be just fine there. If you can't afford, or if you can afford more than that, $700, still not a bad price point for getting double the power of the last generation graphics card. Like
100%.
Of the highest tier generation graphics card, like double what the 2080 Ti did.
Because that's what I did is, once the 20 series came out and the 16 series came out, and ironically, it's actually sitting on the old happy hour set right now. Is my GeForce my GeForce was it WindForce 3 1080 Ti. The 2080s, the 2080 series and the 16 series had all come out by that point. The TIs had been released, the prices were set, and they were starting to decline. But the 1080 series, because the 1000 series had not quite gone out of production or out of stock yet, but they were going like hotcakes because everybody wanted to upgrade.
Yep.
Well, I could pick up a 1080 Ti for $300, $400 at that point. For a card that literally came out over $1,000 when it was brand new.
100%.
So why not? Like that brings this previous generation, which I will tell you that the 2070, the 2080, 2080 Super, 2070 Super, 2080 Ti are all very capable cards for what they are currently.
Yeah.
The 3000 series just takes it to the next level.
What are the generation gaps usually for these? Are we talking like a few years?
So it really depends on the manufacturer. Like AMD's had 1 to 2 year release or update dates between these. Nvidia has been pretty on par with, I think, 2 years between each generation, between the 900s, then the 1000s, then I think the 900s and the 1000s came out 1 year apart because they were using brand new tech for those. But the 2000 series came out 2 years later because it's a completely redesigned chip, with RTX cores with AI specific tensor cores, and then regular GPU compute units, of course. But then it's been 2 years since the 2000 series came out. Now that they're announcing the 3000 series, and the announcement happened today, September 1st. They will be available on marketplaces September 17th, Thursday.
So crazy, man. That's so crazy. This is like 2 weeks and you get it.
I am in a debate on whether I want to buy a 3080 because like $700 for that is not terrible.
Yeah.
And for the kind of graphics performance, like first off, I'd have to chunk it into Battlefield or something like that, which would blow away like the kind of performance I was getting on Battlefield already on my 2080 Super.
Get it.
Is like 70 frames a second. I cannot imagine running this on a card that is more than or about double the performance anyway.
Do us a favor and take some footage of this so that way we can do some
Yeah.
comparisons.
Well, I was actually going to suggest if you do end up getting one of these things, there's some really cool tech that they're touting along with these cards. Again, you know, we talked about the RTX broadcast. They're talking about the fact that they are actually able to, using your camera and these graphics cards, you can stream footage of you, put a skeleton on you, and motion capture pretty much directly to models. Convincingly, is their point.
That is part of the TensorFlow system.
Yeah.
Is the ability for the AI to automatically map your body, similar to way that like you could use whatever camera you want, but the idea is it would be similar to the Kinect system where it would map out your body. And if you use like a 3D modeling program, you can import that as live capture, or motion capture, which is obscene too, because there's several $1 million setups to do this kind of thing for professional studios, and here you have it available in a consumer product.
In a COVID quarantine-laden world, yes, this is going to be incredible for people, especially smaller developers who want to just make cool shit, whether it's movies or games or whatever the case may be. Like, giving them those capabilities is incredible. And I'm seeing people on Twitter and even in our Discord discussing like, well, I might just replace a majority of my setup to make this work because I need the monitors and all that to actively get everything out of it. But it's now reaching the point of affordability where fuck it might just be worth it.
Yeah. So there are two big points here with this that I really want to talk about. First off, cooling. First, have you seen the fan setup on this?
Yes.
It's actually really cool.
So it's available in the imagery that I had posted in the article link below. Specifically, it's the 5th image in the slideshow that's available in the Ars Technica article. And the idea is that it's a double fan system, but not in the way that it has been previously. So what Nvidia decided to do here is cram the entire processing capability of this chip or of this board into about half the length of the normal graphics card. And the point here is that the other half of it is just straight up heat pipes and a push through and a through fan system. Over top of some fins. And the idea is that it's weird looking with the fans on either side of the graphics card. And the idea is that the one that is closest to the rear of the case of your computer is an intake system with venting out of the back plate, which is normal. But this one, the secondary fan is a push through or pull through fan, which pulls cold air from the case and the ambient of the case through the grate and then back out the fan, which is available to exit back into the case elsewhere and get tossed out the back, however your airflow is set up in your case. Which, to me, this is the most revolutionary cooling system that's come out for a graphics card. And I don't understand why an aftermarket company hasn't come out with this, like MSI or Asus or anybody else that makes aftermarket NVIDIA or non-reference NVIDIA graphics cards. I don't understand why this hasn't been a thing.
Within the next year, there will be.
It'll be a double through system at some point, of like, the graphics or the board sits in the middle and, both fans push air through or something ridiculous like that, and that's fine. But this means the cooling performance is obscene. The number that the launch event touted was like 85 watts of better cooling performance, which 85 watts on these is obscene considering the TDP. Or the thermal performance on this. It's ridiculous. So that kind of improvement is groundbreaking as far as this is concerned, because it also blows my mind that nobody's come out with this yet. But the only other way that you could have increased your thermal performance on a graphics card up to this point was water cooling.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the only way to do it. And if you had a non-reference card, you had to hope that there was some aftermarket company that made one available for your card. But now the reference card on air cooling outperforms what a lot of water cooling could do before. So why not?
I imagine one day these chips are going to be stored in like a liquid substance because it's going to always be so hot that it never actually touches it.
I just want you to know that this is really cool, and I'm right there with you. This is very revolutionary until the PS5 releases and we figure out its cooling system. So
they obviously have something completely different.
Well, hopefully they don't take a step back to the PS3.
One can only hope. We don't need jet engines.
We learned that the Nvidia card is actually inside of it, and this was the cool cooling system.
Good. Any last? Okay, you got some last thoughts? Talk to us.
So the second piece that I really wanted to talk about here,
okay,
is the fact that this is a PCI Express 4.0 card. Okay, so PCI Express 3.0 has been the standard now since like 2000. I'm just guessing 8 or 9 here. It's been out for a long time. It's got very high throughput. There is zero reason at this point, or had been zero reason up to this point, to change the system. So PCI Express 4.0 just came out within the last 2 years, and AMD had launched it with the new 3000 series chips and their motherboards to support PCI Express 4.0. The problem that you're going to run into is Intel with the 10,000 series chips still does not support PCI Express 4.0.
Yeah.
If you have a current generation Intel system, you cannot get this graphics card or any of these graphics cards.
Oh, man.
They have shot themselves in the foot to the point that like Rocket Lake S is supposed to be the next series to support it. But my understanding is Rocket Lake S, let's see when it is that's Rocket Lake. I don't care about Rocket Lake.
I was going to say, I know you're saying Rocket Lake, but I keep hearing Rocket League.
Yeah, I do too.
Wait, what?
So Rocket Lake S is supposed to be their next generation to be able to support it, but it is not out yet.
So I'm not going to be able to put this graphics card inside my laptop.
Definitely not. That
we could tape it to the bottom though.
For so many more reasons than the fact that you've got an Intel chip. Yes, for
we
so many more reasons. We
can tape it to the bottom. Come on, man.
Yeah, you could tape it there.
I've got the water cooling system part on the bottom. Yeah,
it'll be a $700 weight system to the bottom of your laptop. Is what that'll be.
There's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
But until the 11 series really come out here, which I wanted to double check here, but as far as I know, yeah, the 8-core 12-thread 11700K is not out yet, and will support it sometime in the future. But the problem is that if it doesn't release by the time that this graphics cards come out, first off, me as an AMD guy, I'm going to jump on top of this because supply is going to be plentifully available, just because the Intel folks won't be able to do this. And there will be tons of Intel folks that are going to be like, hell yeah, I'm going to spend, like the guys who spent, like tons of money on the 10700K when it came out brand new, at like $500 or $600, and then spent tons of money on their system, are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to buy a 3090 at, $1,500, and they're not going to be able to use it.
Yep.
I can see it already, but I can already say that I am probably looking at purchasing one, purchasing a 3080.
This is Satan, Mark. You should purchase it. Satan says you should purchase.
Why does Satan want him to buy things? Why are they evil?
Wow, why does he want me to spend money?
You heard it here first, folks. Mark's trying to help you. If you have an Intel chip, you're fucked. Don't buy it.
This is why I never bought Intel at all. I just bought Dell. Because, dude, you're getting a Dell.
Okay, all right. Back to the early 2000s commercial.
Yeah,
Dell here.
For the guy who got arrested for pot. I don't remember. He got arrested for something.
I don't know.
Hopefully not child pornography.
I would say anything's better than Jared from Subway at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they forgave what's his name from the Olympics.
Phelps.
Yeah, Michael Phelps.
Okay. I'm glad we were thinking drugs and not child pornography from the Olympics. God. Like, we're not talking about Chinese Olympics.
Well, you were talking about the dude from Dell getting caught with weed. So
that is true. That's true.
But anyway, last point here for you Intel folks. Rocket Lake S, the 11 series chips are slated to come out late this year, early 2021. So good luck. Have fun waiting. As of September 17th, I probably will have pre-ordered a 3080.
And that's why we call you the PC Master Race.
I was say there is some real vitriol code out there.
Oh, there's a divide. There's a divide with console fans between PlayStation and Xbox all the time. In the PC Master Race world, it's between Intel and AMD usually. and Nvidia and AMD as well. But that's a moot point.
Well, I mean, we have Nintendo. Okay.
Intel people could suck it. Please let us know what you think about Rocket League Series S. I swear to God, I'm gonna make
Rocket
a
League.
knockoff Rocket League in
Intel
Dreams
Rocket
on
League S.
PlayStation 4. It's gonna be Rocket League S.
Oh,
Well, let us know in the
God.
comments floating above. Mark, he looks so happy and gleeful. Look at that crown.
I'm
He might as well
excited.
have won a
I'm super
round
excited.
of Fall Guys. He might
Hey,
have.
I actually did get a crown.
Boom! Look at that.
a
Look
week
at that.
ago,
That's my
last
boy.
week.
That's my boy right there. He's working it. We don't need to talk about how many Handsome John has because it's too many and it's not fair.